Julieta Aranda is next.
Okay. Okay. So, something that is quite interesting in the what we have heard so far is that we all keep going back to the ideas of pleasure and humor and love and some sense of enjoyment. So, before I start saying all what I want to say in my 10 minutes, I'm going to start with 3 anecdotes. One is something that happened to me. It was, somebody told me this some 10 years ago. It was meant as an insult, but it's one of the best compliments I have received. Where a writer told me, Julieta, the problem with you is that you enjoy life too much to be a proper intellectual. Which is, it was really meant as an incredible diss, but it did me good. That's one anecdote. The second anecdote is something that what happened to me at a personal level, and not so much because I want to talk about myself, but because I think that embodiment is important. I'm Mexican, you may or may not know that. And the day after Trump was announced president of the United States, I realized that I have been moving through the world as an artist, taking advantage of the conduits that art allows us to have, which is that you can go through class, you can cut through geography, you can cut through gender, you can cut through generational gaps and plow your way through. And in my case, all of a sudden, from being born fairly poor in Mexico, I would end up in Germany doing the things that I do now. So, in that case, what it meant for me, the entire thing that has happened after Trump's election is that these things that were before casual identifiers for myself, I'm female, I'm brown, I'm Mexican, and so forth, all of a sudden became a prison and became a matter of embodiment and became real definitions, not just things that were abstract notions. All of a sudden I was really weighed down by circumstances that do belong to me, but that had no real weight before. And that was bone chilling and really terrifying. And the third anecdote or information bit is that over the last 2 days, there has been kind of like a manifesto doing the rounds online. I don't know how many of you have seen it. It's actually an alt-right group posing as Antifa, really denouncing a number of academics and thinkers as fascists. Like the list of the people that are denounced is incredible. It's the xenofeminists, the Lucen Guattari, Alain Badiou, Mackenzie Ward, Benjamin Bratton, Kodjo Eshun, Luciana Parisi. I mean, like a lot of people that are actually like really valuable thinkers for the left. And what it makes me realize is how sophisticated the alt-right has got. How they are trying to play to our weaknesses, which is that we splinter easily. Yeah? We have such moral grandstanding that we tend to take each other down. And this text, which is very poorly written, but still, shook people down because a fascist accusation can can make somebody lose a job. It's been widely discussed. So, with those 3 things in mind, now I try to tackle, as a good student, the points that Adam tried to make us think about. One is the ways in which art can counter the rising rhetoric, yeah? And my own personal experience makes me think about this conduit, yeah, like this kind of contaminations and transfer that can happen through art, which is one of the few fields where really a drunk like someone that is a drunk that only goes to openings to drink and lives God knows where can end up talking to a millionaire collector, yeah? Just to make a very banal example, it really allows for class contamination, it really allows for class contact. And in the same way, it allows for geographical movement and for race and gender movement with all the problems that it has. This is not a moment to talk about who are artists represented and break things down in numbers, but I want to focus on the fact that as narrow as these pathways may be, art keeps them, or has the possibility of keeping them open. So having walked one of those pathways, I think it's very important to do whatever we can to stretch them out, to push our elbows and occupy as much space as we can and not get so comfortable. The ones that crossed, if we have crossed, let's not just get so comfortable in having crossed, but let's reach an arm back and let's help more people do the crossing, because that only makes us stronger. It's also important, to occupy complex positions. A little bit expanding on what Adam mentioned before. Everything is being reduced to tweets and sound bites. And as artists, which is what I identify myself as, we can also be reduced to object makers. Purely commodity producers and so forth. Yeah? And while I think it's important to retain our prerogative to engage on aesthetic experiences, because without aesthetic experiences, life is no life, we should also be able to explain our work, to engage with our work is not something that we make, we are not idiot savants, it's not that someone will explain it later. We can explain it, we can contextualize it, we can decide the spaces that it occupies and what does it represent. And it does not have to be sloganerism or propaganda. Yeah? We can, again, retain our complexity as thinkers, but just with the responsibility of trying to define what is the space that the work occupies and how it moves. Just so that we become more uncomfortable to other people to describe. We are, again, it doesn't make us as artists particularly appealing because we become complex and hard to put on the pocket, but I think it makes art as a general tool, let's say, stronger. And also because if we keep engaging on the production of aesthetic experiences, we keep engaged in pleasure and on the production of libidinal affects. And I think that's something that sometimes as leftists, whatever position we occupy, left of center, we lose track of pleasure, and we lose track of, pleasure becomes suspect, libidinal economics becomes suspect, and because we pay not a lot of attention to them, we focus on critical thought. Everything libidinal has become co-opted by capital, and pleasure and desire have left a big hole in that gets, of course, filled by commodities and other abstractions. And I think claiming that back should not be so difficult, but I do not want to think that that I'm going to pursue people to become leftist and fight right-wing dominance just because that's the right thing to do and morally correct. But because life is good and life is worth living and life is fun and we do laugh, and it's not just gallows humor. We do enjoy ourselves and are proper intellectuals. Another thing, in terms of what artists, as artists we can do, and I'm kind of like focusing more on my position as an artist and not so much as a thinker, I think is we should avoid trying to use the current political climate for myth-making and for career advantage. It's something that does happen, and it happens too often, so it's worth mentioning that that's not cool. And it's rather, trying to think about how do we, within this pleasure, pleasure can expand into solidarity, can expand into love, can expand into trying to take ourselves, to reinvent ourselves as citizens, not just as users of the world, but citizens with the rights and responsibilities that come from these positions. It's not that you live in a place and you sign the terms and conditions agreement, and therefore you are a user of the state. Yeah? Like you are a citizen, it belongs to you. You are responsible to take care of it, and you also have a certain degree of rights, not certain, a lot of rights. That's one bit. Then the next bit is how can we identify the scope of cultural resistance, the spaces and the support that they need. One of the first things that come to mind is that there is, of course, protest is incredibly important, but there is also something that is incredibly unsexy, which is infrastructure. To try to figure out how things get done. It's not enough to, so it's very important to let our anger out and to scream it out and to, I don't know, whatever it takes, break the window, burn the car, whatever that may be. But that is something that makes a visual impact, that makes the better photographs, and that is immediately rewarding. But the unsexy task of creating infrastructure, the really boring task, yeah, that is nonetheless incredibly important. If we do get involved in that as cultural producers, we can guarantee that it also caters to the problems that we are facing now, and that it incorporates the solutions that we may be able to provide. This is also, I mean, like something that you know, it goes back to the idea of taking ourselves again as citizens, not just users, not just observers where the world is material and we can use it to do things, but we are somewhat detached because we are artists. We are actually very much like in the thick of it, we live it, it touches us and we touch it. So that's the other thing to say. And well, I mean, like of course, the last thing that it's important is, in terms of spaces, it's also something that is very interesting is that there has been, of course, a lot of writing and ideas and positions that claim that the digital realm is not real, that life does not happen there, that life is material, life is what we do when we are with each other, and the digital realm is kind of, it's lesser, let's say. And again, there is a vacuum there because a lot of the organization of alt-right movements happen precisely in the space that we have not paid a lot of attention to. So how, and this is not so far, or not so distant from the concerns about infrastructure. How can we claim our stake of that space and position ourselves and use it to our benefit? Not our benefit, but how do you say? For a good cause, let's say. So, and I mean, like, this was all very hastily written, and I guess that's not. I feel bad because I didn't have a beautiful text like everybody else, but that's all I have to say for today.